Everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Crime on the Record. My name is Jason, and she, of course, is Candace. And we have a missing persons case for you today. And I noticed as I was doing the research on this one, but it's in Alaska, and I'd already started writing one up for Alabama. I know that you have one for Alabama too, but I noticed that I just started in the A's. And I think what we'll do is we're just going to go through all the states. We're going to start with Alaska, then we'll go back to Alabama so that our alphabet is correct, but then we're just going to go forward with all 50 states. And it's scary, it's sad, it's all of those words to know that there's enough for all 50 states over and over and over. Like, it's just so many cases of people of unsolved homicides and missing persons. It's sad, it's ridiculous, really, that there's this many out there.
It really is.
And in this case, like, there's a lot of details to it, and there's a lot of things that just are like, how can we not figure out what happened to this guy? But at the same time, it makes sense as to why you can't, because there's just not enough. But there seems like there's enough. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and just get started. So his name is, I always get caught up on this, so I'm just going to say was. His name was Thomas Nuzzi. He was born on January 23rd, 1949, in Alaska. He was 52 at the time of his disappearance. He would be 74 today. He's a white male, 5'8", 190 pounds, brown hair and brown eyes. He was a registered nurse, but he was a travel nurse, so he traveled all over Alaska. And he didn't keep a permanent residence because of, all the travel that he did. He just chose to stay in motels in all the various cities in Alaska that he went to.
I can't even imagine that. Can you imagine living at a motels like all the time?
Not motels. Hotels.
Well, yeah.
I mean, somebody's cleaning my room for me. I don't have to do laundry.
That's true.
Well,
That's
a
true.
lot of laundry. So I mean, I could do it, but not with a family, obviously. But I can see why he wanted to do it, especially because, like, Alaska, you can't just drive everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of seaplane activity going on, so I can see why you just want to show up and do your thing and then move on to the next. And I mean, travel nurses get paid pretty well, don't they?
Yeah. My cousin Christy did a lot of travel nursing, but that's the thing too. She still like had a centralized location, so I was curious about that. But I guess that makes sense in Alaska because everything is so spread out.
Well, that and she's married and has kids. He did not, so it was just him. So it may have made more sense for him just not to have a residence and bounce around from place to place while he was, doing his work.
Yeah, that's true.
He was last seen by his friends on June 15th of 2001. Now, there's some discrepancies as to the actual day because he was supposed to show up on the 20th to his next job, and he never did. The last time he saw his friends was around, on the 15th, but then there's some video surveillance of him on the 19th. But the official date that is out there for law enforcement is the 21st of June, 2001.
I wonder if that's because when he didn't show up on the 20th, they filed a report the next day. So maybe that's like the date on the paperwork. Yeah,
that's probably what it is. It's the date that he's officially listed as missing. But, there's just some differences in there. Either way, though, I mean, in the details in the case, you'll see that, the dates are varied. Regardless, he went missing in June of 2001. He was last seen on surveillance video on June 18th at 9:47 p.m.
Okay, so he didn't go missing on the 15th.
Right. And that's the last time that his friends saw him was on the 15th. And so, from what I understand, he didn't have a big circle of friends. He just had a few, which may
be hard to if you bounce around all the time.
Right. Yeah. Going place to place. But on that night, on the 18th, he was at a convenience store. He bought cigarettes, 2 lighters, chips, and a soda. And we know that because law enforcement, they were able to collect the receipt from that night.
Okay. So this is going to be a stupid question probably, but why would you need 2 lighters?
Well, you'll see. Just a second.
Okay.
So he was in the video. You could see him with a white female. which may be the reason why he needed 2 lighters. I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I could think is maybe he was giving her one because she was there
Yeah.
with him. I don't know. So maybe I don't know as much as I thought I did when you asked that question, but I feel like that's the answer. And
Well, maybe
looking
they
at,
were 2 for whatever.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I think you're getting a little deep into this lighter situation, and it's
I
not what you
know,
think it
I
is.
know, I know. I was
So,
just curious. I'm like, 2 lighters? Why would you need 2 lighters?
right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the detail that got you off the
Yeah.
off the track here. She was 5'2", 105 pounds, and she had dark hair past her shoulders. They're saying brown hair was past her shoulders that they could see.
And nobody knows who she was?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, I
Nope.
was curious if it was a stranger or something.
It's a very, very strange stranger. For sure.
I'd be interested to see the video to see, like, if they look like they knew each other or...
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see any video that was out there. Of course, I also didn't look for it, to be honest.
They
So
probably
it
haven't
might
put it
be.
out there.
Maybe not. The store was close to the Super 8 motel where he was staying, which makes sense because you're not really going to want to go too far. I mean, I know when we travel and we go to a hotel, the first thing I look at is what's close, so I don't have to drive anywhere. So it was there, pretty close. And like I said, he didn't make it to work the next day, well, the 19th, in Bethel, Alaska, and it's 400 miles between Anchorage and Bethel. But it is one of those cities where you can't drive to it. So you're going to have to hop on, a seaplane and fly to it. I can't imagine like that much travel doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, if he was supposed to be in Bethel on the 19th, wouldn't he have left like earlier than that to fly there?
I mean, maybe.
Like nobody's like, hey, dude didn't show up for the plane. It seems odd.
Yeah, because I mean, we're flying out of LaGuardia last week. If we didn't show up for our plane, people are just gonna be like, well, guess he missed his layover or whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't imagine there's like 30, 40, 100 people going on these planes. You think it would be like 1 or 2 people, and like you said, they would notice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, if I'm a pilot and I don't know this person, I'm just, chartering, I'm the one flying the plane, and somebody doesn't show up, I'm like, whatever, they didn't show up. I don't know if I'm.
And we know for sure he had to fly there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I map quested it, and I looked, and they're like, "Nope, you can't drive there. Sorry."
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So, after his disappearance, police found his red Jeep Cherokee. It was in Kujak State Park, which is in the Alpenglow ski area. Now, I'm telling you this like you know it. It's in Alaska. That's it's 12 miles north, or for you, 12 miles up from Anchorage.
There we
on
go.
a map. Yeah. And his keys were still inside the vehicle, which it didn't say if it was in the ignition, on the seat, above the visor. It didn't say, but regardless, when you park, most people take their keys. The law enforcement, they searched the area for 3 days, and they didn't find him, and they didn't find any evidence of anything. It was like his truck was there, his keys were there, and that's all they found. There's nothing else.
Dang.
Yeah. And they went and they found his bike that he would ride his bike a lot of places too. And they found that in his storage unit, and his storage unit was unlocked.
Ooh.
Yeah, not police unlocked it, not the storage company unlocked it, like just unlocked. So,
and the bike was in there.
The bike was in there.
Okay.
So knowing that, police say if he did make it to that state park, he was obviously on foot walking.
Okay, so do we know where the storage unit was? Like, was it in Anchorage or?
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to. There's always at least 2 questions that you have that I'm like, you know what? I don't know.
I mean, a lot of times they do just say it like that. They're like, well, we looked in the storage unit. Okay, well, you can tell me where that's at? Like,
right. Yeah. I think the important thing, though, is out of all the stuff that we're talking about, storage unit, the most important thing is his bike was there. So he wasn't riding anywhere on his bike. He wasn't driving anywhere else in his car. He was on foot. So I think, and that kind of helps with the search of an area, because if they know he was walking, he can only get a certain distance away before,
Yeah, but how
they
do they
should
know he
open
didn't
them.
get in the car with somebody else?
Fuck if I know, babe. You're asking a lot of questions I don't have answers to.
Well, I don't
I mean,
expect you to have an answer. I'm just saying, like,
no,
that seems
no,
kind of
yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. But it's basically like, why is this car in a state park with the keys in it? Like, that doesn't
yeah.
make sense when he's supposed to be 400 miles away.
Do we
And
know how long he had been in Anchorage?
not very long. I mean, from what I was reading about, his work, he didn't stay in one place for, an extended period of time. I don't
Yeah.
know. It could have been just a few days, a couple weeks, but it wasn't anything very long, which is why he didn't have a permanent residence anywhere, because he was
Yeah.
just bouncing from place to place.
I was just
But
thinking, like, if he hadn't been there long, he couldn't have known this woman long, you wouldn't think, whoever she was.
that is true. That is true. And from all the stuff that I've read and researched on this, I don't think he knew her at all.
Gotcha.
I think I have some thoughts on who she might have been, but I'm not sure. It didn't say it, and it gave no indication that he knew her or any of his friends knew her, because when they saw the video, they were like, I don't no idea who she is, kind of thing. Um, there
Yeah.
are some suspicious details in the case, though. On the 15th of June, so a few days before he vanished, a security guard at the motel said a man and a woman were trying to break into his vehicle. Now,
Oh.
when they looked into it, it was the same woman that was on the surveillance video with him on
Oh.
what, the 18th. 3 days previous to that, she's trying to break into his car, which is odd to say, especially if he didn't know her. I mean, who breaks into somebody else's car, even if you know them or don't know them? But I mean, it's weird that it happened 3 days before they saw them together in the convenience store.
Yeah.
It's an odd, like, I could understand if, you know, you see them together on the 18th and then the next day you see him trying to break into his car. All right,
Yeah.
maybe I can get
Yeah.
behind that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't understand why they would be doing that, unless it was just some wild coincidence that they happen to be breaking into his vehicle, and then a few days later they met each other. Maybe it was just coincidence. I'm not sure.
Or I guess they could have been like faking him out, like realized he wasn't from around there, or, ran into him, was talking to him and realized, oh, he's not from here. Let's break into his car. And then when they couldn't get in it, they then had her like cozy up to him or whatever.
Maybe because he wasn't cozying up to anybody. Because his description, because there was a dude, obviously there was a dude with him. He was a tall, thin guy. Okay, that's not. But they said he had decaying teeth, not
Ugh.
like a missing tooth or a jacked up smile or anything like that. No, decaying teeth. So what I'm thinking is meth mouth. Kind of
Yeah.
what I'm seeing this as. And then a couple across the street from the Super 8 said they saw the same couple break into his Jeep on the 18th and then drive away.
Do they know like what time? Do we know what time on the 18th?
No, it just says it was reported on the 18th. So I would assume that it would be that night after the surveillance video, because I don't know why they would be breaking into a car, driving away, and then hanging out with him
Yeah.
later.
But they
So I
were
mean, it would have to
seen
be.
on the 18th at 9:47 p.m.
Mhm.
So they were seen that night, but then they also the
Yeah.
person from across the street saw them on June 18th. So the
Yeah.
same day.
Same day.
That's weird.
Very. Yeah. And so,
I mean,
but it could have been. But the thing about it is like, did they actually see it on the 18th, or did they see it
yeah,
on the 15th? But then again, if they're saying they saw him break in and drive away, like, you would
yeah,
think that, because that you saw him a few days later after they tried to break in. So it's kind of confusing, and it's not real clear. It's just that people are seeing these two trying to break into cars, and then I guess being successful in driving away on the 18th. But the timeline is a little, I'm not sure how when it was reported. It had to be after they saw that, after they were together in the surveillance video, though, because I don't know why they
Yeah,
would steal it and then come back and hang out with him.
exactly.
And then it
I'm
gets a little
guessing
more.
they parked his car, I'm guessing.
I mean, that would be my guess,
Yeah.
because it gets a little more like what uh, the housekeeper at the Super 8 said that she saw the same man and woman in his room the morning of June 19th.
Okay,
So,
so they really need to pin down this who when the person across the street saw this, because there's a big difference in we went there on the 18th that night, drove off in his car, and the next morning decided to come back, as opposed to they broke in his room, we're hanging out for a while, and then we're like, peace out.
yeah.
Because I mean, you would have to know that he's not going to come back to that room and find you there if you're planning to come back the next day.
Yeah.
Like, why would you come back in the car?
Yeah, no, I agree. And listen to this, because this is like the things that they put in the reports and everything. It just adds to the confusion, because the housekeeper said that when she first saw him, this dude was laying on the ground. Not Thomas, but old meth mouth was laying on the ground. And so she just kind of was like, okay, whatever. And then she came back later that day and she said he was sitting on the bed. So it's like,
Did
well,
she
why
go
was he on the
into the
floor?
room or
No,
look through like the
no. She was
window?
kind of like, kind of like knock on the door. It's housekeeping,
Gotcha.
open it up, and then be like, oh, there's somebody in here. And so she shut the door, because I mean, if he was supposed to show up on the 19th to his next job, obviously the 18th would have been, his last night
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
she knocks on the door. There's somebody in there. She's like, I guess he hasn't checked out yet. And then she went back that afternoon, and homeboy is sitting on the bed. And it was at that time that she's like, well, they're not supposed to be here. I don't know who
Yeah.
they are, but she made them leave, and they haven't been seen since the housekeeper saw them on the afternoon on the 19th, and no one knows who they were, why they
Oh,
were there. Nobody. So not Thomas's friends or family, not the people in that area where he was. Like, nobody knows who these two were.
man.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
It really, it's like, it's kind of confusing, because of, when did they see them actually drive the Jeep away? Was it the night of the 18th? Was it the morning of, or the 19th? What day was it? And then the security guard saying that he saw them trying to break in on the 15th. It's like these days don't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't line up, but that's what's in the reports. That's the way they're laying this thing out. And just to add to a little more to this case, when Thomas's nephew got possession of his cell phone, he called all the numbers in his recent call history, which makes sense. I mean, I would,
Yeah.
just trying to find out more information. And most of the numbers were to pagers, which, if you're under the age of 40, a pager is is
Oh,
where
yeah.
you would call this little thing and it would beep, and then when somebody would look at it, because they were also called beepers, and then when the person would look down and they would see it, it would show a number, and then there's no caller ID on it, so you just see the number. You find the nearest payphone. Payphones were phones that were on walls that you put quarters into to make calls out. So you would see
And
this
oddly
number.
enough, still in Niagara Falls at the train station.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, train station payphones. But you would see the number on your pager, and you would use a payphone to call the number, not knowing who it was. And then if you saw 911, you did everything you could to like pull over as fast as possible, because you knew that was mom wanting to know where the hell you were at. So
Or a
that's a
friend
little bit
asking some dumbass question.
of right. Yeah, yeah. So most of the numbers in his cell phone went to pagers or other motels. One was to a halfway house,
Oh,
and all of the numbers, the pagers, the motels, the halfway house, anybody that he spoke to, nobody had any idea who this guy was. They had no idea who Thomas was, which
oh,
is just,
that's not good.
yeah. I mean, it could go, it could speak to the fact that he bounced around from place to place so much, and that he never really, put down roots and never had a big social circle. So nobody really knew who he was. Or there could be other things behind it that are a little more kind of sketchy. Regardless, though, I had no idea who he was. Like, that's it. So we got this mushed up timeline of when he was seen. Like, the only solid date that you definitely know is June 18th, 9:47 p.m. because you could see him, you see the timestamp. Everything else could be that, it had been weeks, months, or whatever when they came back and they're talking to these people. So they're recounting these days and they think it's on the 15th or they think it's on the 19th, and it's actually not. It could be, it really could be that they saw her with him on the night of the 18th, and then the security guard may have seen them trying to break into the car, and then the neighbor may have seen them drive away, and that could have been after the housekeeper was like, y'all need to leave. Which that timeline would make more sense to me, because that kind of flows with what you would think. But we're here, security guard says it's the 15th that he saw him. Those across the street said it was the 18th, that they saw them break into the car and drive away. The housekeeper knows for sure that it was on the 19th because that's when he checked out, and that's when she was, going to clean up for the next guest. So it's a little convoluted. It's not solid. But what we do know is the last person he was seen with is this white chick. And then his vehicle was found at a state park several days later, and he never made it to his destination where he was supposed to be for his next job.
And another thing too is, like, even if they took that car there, how the hell did they get away? Like, where did they go?
Right. Because they don't sound like the kind of people that have reliable transportation.
They do not.
I mean, I don't know. That's really where the investigation stops for him. There's been zero leads. There's been nothing else coming in. The family hasn't been able to find any answers. I mean, he's just truly gone. And I mean, and when I think about missing people, and if I was trying to make somebody disappear, Alaska would be a really good place to do it, because it's just so vast and there's so much out there that nobody's even touched or been to. And it'd be really easy. And I mean, how many months out of the year is the ground covered in snow? There's been other cases that we've talked about to where, people were missing and they're looking for them, and then winter comes and they have to wait until spring when everything thaws out and melts that they can resume the search. I mean, there's probably places in Alaska where it never thaws out. So if you were to put somebody somewhere and then snow and ice and everything else, and then it doesn't ever thaw out, I mean, you'd never find anyone.
That is terrifying to think.
It really is.
But, Alaska is one of the places that, I mean, we all know that there's a huge issue with Indigenous men going missing, and Alaska is a huge population for that. So that would make sense too, because, they're able to disappear these women and nobody can find them.
And I don't remember the exact percentages, but I know they are huge. Like, they are very high for the number of Indigenous women that go missing, and not just not found, but nobody's looking for. And I mean, it's a very high number. I don't know what it is, but it's very high, because I remember we were watching some shows and they would always show like that information on there, and it's just always shocking to see what the percentage is of people that haven't been found or nobody's looking for. It's just wild to me.
It really is.
In the case of Thomas, though, like I said, he was 52 at the time of his disappearance. He'd be 74 today. White male, 5'8", about 190 pounds, brown hair and brown eyes. If you do know anything, they're asking you to call the Anchorage Police Department at 907-786-8900 and reference the case number 01-31713. You can also call the Alaska State Troopers office at 907-269-5038. And that is everything for the case of Thomas Nuzzi. I don't know if you have any other questions that I can maybe answer, but
I do not have questions, but I do have information that I looked up.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because me, I research like the FBI.
Yeah, so. No, I know. And people that listen to us also know that our research styles are vastly different. Which is why you research while we're recording. So, but it works out. It works out. So what
Well,
do you
because
find?
I have a question. I have a question. I want to know. So I'm like, let me see if I can find out.
That is fair. That is fair.
Now, granted, this is from Reddit, so it is what it is. But it says that when they went to the storage unit and found it, they did find it unlocked. But in addition to the bike, they found his cell phone, wallet, and credit cards, and his current ID. So I don't know why that would be at his storage unit unless somebody was there, you know, and dumped his stuff. But why wouldn't they take the credit cards though? So that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. The other thing that doesn't make sense is why, out of all the articles that I read about this and the news coverage that I watched and everything else, not one time did anybody mention this. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand it's Reddit, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that you might have to look at it with a little more, you know, maybe a little more suspect. But there's been plenty of times where Reddit's been right. So
Well,
it's
because
just
looking
weird.
through this, it's just the person relaying the case. And so reading through it, I mean, most of it is everything that you went over. So I would imagine it's all, you know, pertinent information that they found while looking. So, or maybe they know
Yeah.
this, you know, live around there or something.
Yeah. And I mean, it's another indication that he is deceased if all of his, you know, banking and in any other way that he could pay for things is there. And I mean,
They
and I would
said
imagine
they're,
that somebody that's sorry, go ahead, babe.
oh no, you're fine.
I
You
was
would
just going to
imagine
say
what?
that if you're a traveling nurse, that cash may not be a big thing for you because you know you may not be in and out of branches of your local bank, so credit cards would make more sense, especially in Alaska where things are remote. I'm sure there's not just, you know, a JP Morgan Chase at every corner like there is in other cities. So credit cards would make sense. So for those to be left behind is a really
Yeah.
bad sign.
They said that he was known to have a 38 caliber handgun that he kept in the unit and it was missing. So that's not
Okay.
great. It said that so Reeves is either the nephew or the person that was traveling with the nephew. I'm not sure which one, but
Okay.
it says Reeves was able to locate the lighters and chips inside of the storage unit, and the pack of cigarettes was found inside of Thomas's car. His good friend Harold said the cigarettes puzzled him because Thomas was not a smoker and would never have let anyone smoke in his car, which is odd because he's the one that bought cigarettes, we know.
Yeah. And I mean, he could have bought cigarettes for the chick that he was with, which, okay,
Yeah.
sure, I could see that.
Yeah.
But if he's not a smoker and, you know, I mean, I'm not a smoker, I'm not going to let you smoke in my car. And, you know, if he's not a smoker and that's what his friend was saying, then he's not going to allow that either. The only reason they would be in there is if she was in there without him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Which goes to the whole they stole the car and drove away from what the person across the street saw.
You know what though, like, this is odd because I used to be a smoker. And if you're a smoker, you ain't leaving no pack of cigarettes nowhere. You're taking it with you. You know, so like,
yeah,
why if she's a smoker and she was in the car, like, why didn't she take the cigarettes? And how'd she light the damn cigarette if she left the lighters in the storage unit? I got a lot of questions about these lighters, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Lots of questions.
I mean, it is interesting how you focus on like smallest of things, but I will say in this instance, it does lead to a lot of questions that you need answered just based on these two lighters. And I mean, we're going to go over some more, you know, in our thoughts and theories that we do for our YouTube members and Patreon members. So there's going to be a lot more. We're going to kind of dive into this a little bit further, because like, did he know that there was two people? Did he know that there was her and him? You know, meth mouth and this 5'2" chick? Because if not, again, why would he buy two lighters, especially if he is not a smoker?
Yeah.
Did he buy two lighters because she wanted them, or did he know that there was somebody else with her? There's a lot of questions.
The only thing that I can think too is, you know, it could have been, a lot of times you'll go in places, well, when I smoked anyway, and they'll have like little baskets or something of lighters. So it could have been like, you know, the little small ones, like 2 for whatever. So maybe he just, they were like, oh, you can get a free one too. So maybe he grabbed another one. I don't know, but
maybe.
odd. I wonder if he had his car at the gas station when he bought that stuff.
It's also a good question.
Apparently they didn't see the car on surveillance, but they did not see it from what they said. You know, they didn't make a point to say that. Yeah,
because I mean, it could have been right across the street or right next to the motel. So, you know, they wouldn't have seen his car because he didn't bring it.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. But these are the things that we are going to discuss deeper and kind of give you what we think happened. And we're going to do that. You know, you can either become a member here and you can check that stuff out. Or if you're listening to a podcast, you can go to patreon.com/crimeontherecord and get the info on this case and several others. And there's other stuff out there too that we do that maybe not necessarily true crime per se, but we think you'll enjoy that too. But anything else for this case you got, babe, that you've researched and found? Now. Okay. All right.
Not as of now.
Well, good. So anyway, guys, that's it for this episode. Please be sure to like and subscribe before you take off. And we'll be back with another case real soon.